Well, good evening, or should I say, good evening, and welcome to The Shadow World by Bill Miner. My name is Frank Moore. I'm the Executive Director of Western Edge Theatre, and this is the second of these virtual productions we've undertaken at Western Edge. The first was Sandpiper Serenade, also by Bill, in June. The recording of that is on our YouTube channel if you'd like to watch it. And now we present this homage to 1940s Gothic thrillers. If you enjoy the show, we'd ask you to consider making a donation to Western Edge, both to encourage more such and also to help ensure we are able to return to full production on a stage when the time is right again. You'll find a link underneath your YouTube screen, I think, to make a donation. If not, you can visit our website at westernedge.org to do so. And now I'd like to introduce the writer of The Shadow World, Bill Miner.
Thanks very much, Frank. And I'd just like to echo Frank in welcoming everyone here and thanking you all very much for making time in your busy schedules to be with us. And without further ado, I have the privilege of introducing the actors and the roles that they'll be performing. Diane Verheul will be playing Delores Ellington, well-bred, well-educated, but not always well-behaved. Randy Humchett will be playing her brother, Dylan Ellington. Dylan is witty and charming, born to gamble and lose. Mr. Rick Myers, a familiar face on the Nanaimo stage, will be playing Edward M. Kluger, the reclusive owner of Surfside Lodge and a former world-famous spiritualist. Rounding out our cast this evening, Mr. Eric Tully will be portraying Raymond Bannister, butler, cook, and lifelong companion of Edward. The story takes place in 1935 on a very sparsely populated Gulf island off the coast of Vancouver Island, British Columbia. Our tale begins on a sturdy but rustic ferry as it tosses in a storm heading towards Gabriola Island. Delores Ellington is discussing the slightly less than perfect state of affairs with her brother, Dylan.
His breath. The captain has obviously been drinking. He's likely to put us ashore on some godforsaken rock and forget entirely where he's left us.
He's a salty dog, Delores. All salty dogs drink heavily during storms. It's their nature. We're probably much safer with him drunk, believe me.
Well, I do not feel the least bit safe. Oh, tell me again why we are floating helplessly on this death trap in the middle of a typhoon, thousands of miles from civilization.
Because we are broke, dear sister. We have merrily squandered everything but the family name, including jewelry, art, trust funds, and ancestral gold fillings. We have hit rock bottom without the illustrious captain's able assistance.
You have gambled away our fortune, you mean?
Lady Luck has left my side momentarily, it is true. She is a fickle mistress.
Oh, Dylan. You are enchanting, witty, and an excellent dinner companion. But you are without question the world's worst gambler.
All the more reason to brave the elements in search of quirky old Uncle Edward. We shall need every ounce of family charm to convince him to help us in this serious undertaking.
Serious undertaking? Madness is more like it. Complete and utter madness.
What is the alternative? Working for a living? Up at some ungodly hour every day? Forever? We wouldn't last a week and you know it.
All right. But even if we do get him to agree, which seems unlikely, what makes you think he'll be successful?
He was the world's greatest spiritualist. renowned throughout Europe for his astonishing ability to converse with the dead. Wealthy patrons paid fortunes to speak with their dearly departed. True, his last seance ended very badly, forcing him to retire a recluse on this nearly deserted island. Listen, we're slowing down. We must be close.
Oh, thank heavens. You know, if this ghastly voyage had lasted any longer, I might have taken up our dear captain's offer of a little nip or something to warm your inside.
Best wait for a snifter of Uncle Edward's brandy. I'll go arrange for a crew member to help us with our luggage. Got any money for a tip?
Well, where did the $20? Never mind. Look, just tell him you left it with the captain. Oh, please be careful with that suitcase. It's the only one I'd still be seen with in Europe.
Don't get too attached to that poor alligator, Delores. If things go badly with Uncle Edward, we'll likely need to sell that suitcase and everything that's in it just to get back to Toronto.
I know I can always count on you when I need cheering up, Dylan. Where is his car and driver, anyway? His telegram said Raymond would be waiting for us at the dock.
I'm fairly certain that's Raymond waving at us just over there. Although with all that mud, I may be mistaken.
Where? Oh, no. Please, no. I can't. An open horse-drawn buggy in this weather? I mean, in any weather. That boat, do you hear me? I'm not staying. Dylan, do something.
Grab a suitcase, Delores. I don't think Raymond can get the buggy any closer because of those puddles. Hello, Raymond. Lovely to see you again.
Good evening, Mr. Ellington. We have been so very much looking forward to your visit. It's been years since we've had guests. Will Miss Ellington be all right, sir?
There is nothing Miss Ellington enjoys more than a bit of an evening puddle walk, Raymond. It picks up her spirits tremendously.
No, I could hear the crew laughing as they pulled out. You know, I have a mind to write the maritime whatever to complain. God, what on earth did I pack in this thing? You know, I obviously won't be needing any of the... Shut up! All of you! Dylan, if you so much as smirk, I promise you I will make your life very unpleasant. Now help me up.
Give me a hand, will you, Raymond? Hopefully some dry clothes, a warm fire, and some dinner will return Miss Ellington to her usual jovial self.
I wish now that I had brought the car, sir, but the cat was asleep in the front seat and I didn't have the heart to wake her.
Perhaps let's keep that to ourselves at the moment, Raymond.
As we enter the great hall of the lodge that Edward has converted into his island retreat, we see him playing a favorite classic on the piano while Raymond quietly observes. Dylan and Delores have somewhat recovered from their travel ordeal and are currently enjoying a scotch in Dylan's suite.
Yes, sir.
Not at the moment, Raymond. I think I'm going to need my wits about me with these two.
I was rather surprised you didn't dismiss their request outright, sir. You seem to intentionally leave the door ajar just enough to keep them guessing.
I should have just chastised them for their audacity and stormed out of the room. Is that what you mean? Yes, I suppose that would have been the more prudent course of action. They just seemed so desperate, Raymond.
Desperation caused by life of excess and self-indulgent. Clearly, they did not inherit their father's work ethic, nor their mother's pride.
I caution you not to let our many years of friendship cloud your judgment, Raymond. You, of all people, need no reminder of my deep feelings for the family.
I apologize, sir. I did not mean it as a criticism. I spent many joyous years in their service.
I'm a little thin-skinned tonight. We both have ample reason for melancholy. I'm torn by the prospect of once again entering the spirit world, Raymond. I fear success as much as I fear failure.
Cannot possibly understand the horrible damage suffered in Paris during that last seance. 15 years and thousands of miles, and I can still wake up in a cold sweat thinking about that night.
They'll know soon enough. I've copied the entries of my journal describing those horrific events and left it on Dylan's mantle. I told him he and Delores must read the contents before they decide whether they wish to continue on this path.
You've kept the original journal? All these years? Why, Edward?
Penance, I suppose. Although I haven't reread them until tonight.
They're likely to run screaming out into the storm. I better go hitch up the horses.
Don't be so sure that they won't have the stomach for it, Raymond. There's a lot of their mother in both of them. They may surprise you.
Where have you left it?
Why? What possible reasons could you have? It's on my desk.
He's certainly improved over the years, although I wish he'd play something a little less gloomy.
Shall I go down and request some show tunes? That hardly seems appropriate. Oh, you're just delaying opening the envelope, Dylan. Let's get it over with. How bad can it be?
You didn't see his face. Look into his eyes when he told me we must read it before deciding to go any further. I saw terror, Delores. After all these years, blood-chilling terror.
Well, think of the terror in your own eyes when you find yourself destitute and out on the street during a cold Toronto winter. Now hand me the letter and fix us another drink.
Ever the pragmatist. You've always been stronger than me anyway.
October 30th, 1920. I am writing of the events that took place yesterday evening at the home of Madame Cherrois during a most singular spiritual event, as much for my own sanity as for any historical significance. I desperately hope that forcing myself to relive those fateful hours will somehow allow me to purge their memory from my mind, if not my soul.
It all arrived at our usual time for the monthly gathering of Shadow World enthusiasts, acknowledging each other with a nod or a few whispered words, filling glasses and moving familiarly into her large dining room. As I was conducting the seance that evening, I lingered behind, allowing the others to take their seats.
The doorbell chimed just as everyone noticed the extra seat, Madame Cherrois giving away nothing as we all listened to the footsteps on the stairs. I sensed who it was before she came into sight and struggled not to physically restrain her from entering the room as she moved quickly by me. It was the wife of my... Oh my God, Dylan! Mother!
What are you saying? What about Mother?
She was at that seance, Dylan. She must have pleaded with Uncle Edward to make contact with Father. But the Paris group, she knew. She must have known.
For heaven's sakes, Delores, make sense. All was lost at sea en route from England, as you well know. She never set foot in Paris.
It was Yvette, the wife of my dearest friend Charles, who had died tragically only a few short weeks ago. I didn't even know she was in Paris, let alone how she could have possibly discovered the time and meeting place of our secret group. What all-consuming anguish could have led her to such a desperate act?
She's there, Dylan, asking the dark group to contact Father. Do you understand what this means?
A seance is a seance, Delores. Rich people, dead people, and a little theatrics. Nothing more.
She had known, of course, of my lifelong obsession with the underworld, the dark, disturbing realm of the tormented in limbo and beyond. If she had never been remotely curious in the past about the inner workings of this cruel domain, she pleaded for entry now.
Oh, those ridiculous pantomimes for the rich and famous were mere confections. Shiny baubles to entertain the dull-witted and overfed. Oh, you know nothing of the man whose assistance you seek, Charles. Edward and his associates humored their wealthy patrons just to pay the bills.
What's come over you, Delores? Why are you talking this way, and why on earth did you just call me Charles?
Don't play the innocent with me, Charles. I'm neither frightened nor drunk enough to be confused by your little charade.
I find your imitation of Mother cruel beyond words. I demand you either apologize or leave my room immediately.
Your room, dear husband. We have shared a bedroom for nearly 20 years. And I shall not be so easily cast out. Oh, here, perhaps you should loosen up that shirt collar a bit.
It's outrageous and despicable, Delores, even for you. I shall leave you to your vicious game.
What is it, my boy? Have you finished reading the letter?
My sister has chosen tonight of all nights to torment me. I was struggling with the letter, so Delores volunteered to read it aloud. She had just started doing so when out of the blue she started mocking Father and Mother in a most horrible way. I pleaded with her to stop, which seemed to only increase her malice.
Mocking? In what way, Dylan?
Imitating Mother's voice and personality, pretending I was Father. It was unnerving in its accuracy. If I hadn't been so disgusted and confused by what she was saying, I probably would have applauded her performance.
Performance? I wonder.
What do you mean, Uncle?
Nothing, my boy. Just the foolish musings of an old man. Let's join Raymond for a nightcap.
Shall I arrange for a late supper, sir?
Arrange for a very large brandies all around, if you please, Raymond. I fear a possible storm within these walls may soon outstrip its more natural brethren outdoors.
Delores had the absurd idea that Mother was somehow present at your last seance in Paris, Uncle. As a matter of fact, she seemed to know exactly why she was there and grew very agitated as a result.
She is far more deeply connected to your mother than I had imagined.
Of course, I reminded her that what she was claiming was ridiculous, that she knew as well as I did that Mother had drowned on the crossing from England.
I wish to God she had, Dylan. With all my soul, I wish she had found a watery grave. Any grave.
Edward, the boy, he knows nothing.
Has everyone gone quite mad? All these years alone on this isolated little bit of rock have unhinged you, obviously. We shall need transportation by the ferry in the morning. Good night.
Madness would be a great relief. Stay, my boy. You must hear it all now. I'll pour us another brandy while Raymond retrieves the journal.
Are you saying that Mother was at that seance? That she didn't drown as we were told and believed all these years?
It seemed the most kindest, most plausible explanation, Dylan. We had few options, and the truth was certainly not among them.
If she had never been remotely curious in the past about the inner workings of this cruel domain, he pleaded for entry now. She implored me with her eyes while the rest of the group silently awaited my decision. I felt the strongest impulse to walk out the door, down the steps and out into the Paris night.
I have walked down those stairs 1,000 times since then.
Instead, I addressed the group. Her husband was my best friend, but he was cruel and reckless. He has died with blood on his hands. So much blood. He begs him release from the suffering and returned to her.
Ravenna.
Word rushed like a foul wind through the group.
Ravenna.
Revenant!
My
Revenant!
asthma of fear filled the room.
Revenant!
I waited until the room once again grew silent.
Oh, please, you're all a little too old for ghost stories, aren't you? I mean, I just got the last few minutes of the show, but boy, it's a humdinger. Why didn't you wake me when I drifted off, Dylan? I thought we needed to read Uncle Edward's letter tonight.
Drift off? What are you talking about, Delores? You know perfectly well you were up in that
Let's
room.
discuss that in a minute, my boy. Right now, I think your sister could use a drink before we explain the grim reality behind the so-called ghost story she overheard.
Thank you, Uncle. You know, it's strange, really. I can't remember what was happening when I fell asleep. I recall Dylan was apprehensive about reading your letter, and then nothing.
You mean to tell me that you have absolutely no recollection of reading the letter or your charming imitation of Mother?
Imitation of Mother? Well, don't be absurd. How can you even accuse me of such cruelty?
What you're saying makes no sense whatsoever, Delores. I was in that room with you when... At least I thought. I don't know anything anymore.
Don't be too forlorn, my boy. A great deal may be revealed tonight, for good or for ill.
Shall I start at the beginning again, sir, for the sake of Miss Ellington?
No, Raymond. I shall offer a synopsis of the events as they unfolded, and then we'll continue with the story. But first, I wish to confirm my suspicions regarding why these two braved the wilds of British Columbia to seek my assistance. Enlighten us, Dylan, if you please.
As you wish, Uncle. I shall not belabor our present critical financial situation, as you are well aware of our imminent destitution. The fact that it is a poverty of our own making, that it is to say, my own creation, serves only to harden my resolve to use any means possible to re-engage solvency, however desperate.
Which brings us to you, Uncle Edward. As you know, Father was very secretive about his business dealings, even with Mother. I mean, he spent weeks, sometimes months away at a time, who knows where, involved in who knows what. And when he returned, it was always in a dark, brooding mood, which even Mother avoided until the ominous cloud had passed.
In a day or two, he would reappear, laughing and dancing with Mother as if he'd never left. "It's time for a party, darling," he'd say. "Let's have a party and invite all those miserable couples so envious of our long and blissful marriage."
He was always prone to melancholy, even as a child. Those last few years seemed to intensify his struggle with whatever demons he battled. I knew far more than most about his many enterprises, more than I cared to know.
He wished only to keep those he loved as far away from danger as possible. The burden of those secrets seemed to hold him prisoner during those last few months.
I'd forgotten you'd accompanied Father on many of those journeys, Raymond. You were there when he died, were you not?
I shall not speak of that night, miss, except to say that your father accepted his death with dignity. The storm has worsened. I should check on the horses. Excuse.
He has never revealed to me what happened that night, even after all these years together.
How did he escape whatever horrible fate met my father?
I wonder if you really wish to know such a thing.
I am not as weak of stomach as you may think, uncle, nor is my sister. Surely it cannot be worse than whatever your journal will disclose.
Very well. He hid for 5 days in a mass grave filled to the brim with the very old and the very young.
Oh my.
Would you ever stop seeing their faces, I wonder?
How horrible. Father must have died trying to save those poor people.
Our father the hero? Tell my hopelessly naive brother the truth. I'm sickened to my marrow by this secret.
What secret? Delores! Delores! Uncle Edward, please!
It was a lifetime ago, Dylan. Let it rest, both of you. Please, continue with your reason for being here.
All right. As I was saying, Father was back in fine spirits and Mother had organized one of her famous soirees. Just before the guests were to arrive, Father asked me to join him out in the garden. As we strolled amongst his prize roses, he said, "These last few years have been very difficult on the family, I know, particularly your mother. You are the man of the house in my absence, and if anything were to ever happen to me, you must look after your mother and your sister." I was about to protest when his eyes darkened and he became very still and quiet. Life offers no guarantees, Dylan. I have provided for your future. Before I leave next week, I will entrust you and you alone with the means to access a vast fortune. Just then, a servant entered the garden to tell Father a telegram had arrived that it needed his immediate attention and response.
Ironically, whatever information he received in that telegram, well, it caused him to leave for Europe that very evening, leaving Mother very distressed and with a house filled with rather confused friends. Of course, we never heard from him again.
I assume you believe that this fortune exists and that he went to his grave without disclosing its whereabouts to anyone.
Father was adamant that he and I alone were to possess that information. I am convinced that it remains untouched to this day.
And you are proposing what? That I conduct a seance and attempt to contact with your father so he might pass this secret on to you from beyond the grave?
How can you possibly ask such a thing of Edward?
Raymond, it's all right.
No, it is very much not all right. You are asking Edward, perhaps even yourself, to risk far more than any fortune could justify. When I think of the torment...
That's enough, Raymond.
As you wish, but I shall pour myself a brandy and continue with the journal. I suggest any further explanation should happen quickly.
I agree with you entirely, my old friend. We all need to see things as clearly as possible tonight. Delores, your mother did not perish in a storm en route from England. She had somehow discovered where and when the dark group was meeting in Paris and persuaded Madame Chiraud to allow her entrance.
Why fabricate such a lie? And how did Mother die, if not at sea?
As I told Dylan, our options were limited. Do not judge us until you've heard the truth. But we get ahead of ourselves. Your mother was at the seance and pleaded with me to employ the strength of the group to not only contact your father, but return his soul and mind to her.
That's impossible. It is difficult enough to imagine reaching through the threshold of death for verbal contact. To contend the crossing over of souls is beyond fantasy. Mother would have never believed such a thing.
She believed it with all her heart, Dylan. Your father and I participated in such an event only a year before his death. He recounted that episode with dramatic flair at a party being held in his honor. He neglected to mention, of course, the rather unexpected outcome.
So as I thought, it was a failure.
No, the group was very strong, very, very strong, and the soul was pulled through the threshold. Regrettably, the body and mind of the host proved too weak, and both died during the transfer.
Host body? Really, Uncle Edward, I agree with Dylan. You seem to be describing more of a parlor trick than anything remotely legitimate.
I assure you, my dear, a revenant is no parlor trick. Revenants, or those who return from the dead, have been documented and feared throughout Europe for centuries. Ancient incarnations passed down through generation upon generation of dark groups have been responsible for the release of the dead into the midst for centuries. A host body of someone close to the deceased is required as a vessel for the soul until a newly vacated body can be found.
How can two minds and souls exist in one being? Surely this is far beyond alchemy and religion.
It must be a loved one, willing to temporarily forsake their ego for the survival of the departed. Even with a strong host, time is of the essence. It's getting late. Raymond?
I waited until the room had once again grown silent, then held Yvette's beseeching eyes with my own. He is beyond our reach, Yvette. You must know that. Even a group as powerful as ours cannot hope to match the strength of his tormentors. You loved him like a brother, she said, despite his many flaws, and I would die 100 deaths for him. We must try, Edward, because of what he has done. We must try.
She was right, of course. I left it up to the group, and slowly, one by one, they all agreed to participate.
Uncle Edward, you didn't allow Mother to become the host. Not after what you had witnessed. Please tell me you forbade her to take part in that madness.
Delores, you are not only the spitting image of your mother, you have her temperament. How many times in your life has anyone been able to forbid you to do anything? Now imagine that that is the most important thing in your life.
We drew on our darkest, most secret incantations, whispering words and sounds that had not been spoken out loud for 300 years. Yvette sat with her back to the group as our murmurs gathered momentum and intensity. Further and further into the desolate recesses of the spirit world we plunged as Yvette's body began swaying to a rhythm born of the alien sounds rising from her throat. Her swayings became more and more agitated as the room fell silent, except for her disturbing cries.
Charles! 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 Where are you?
Delores! Delores! Delores, can you hear me? Uncle Edward, what's happening?
She is so deeply connected to your mother, Dylan. She is acting as a conduit to the spirit world. Yvette is reaching through the threshold to join her.
Spirit world? I don't understand. Why is Mother trying to contact Delores?
She was torn from her body trying to reach your father. The demons were too powerful. They allowed your mother and father to unite briefly, then dragged them back screaming into the underworld.
Oh, Mother! Oh, Mother, please. You're too strong. You're too strong. I'm drowning. Relax, my pet. Relax. Let me flow over you. I've been waiting so very long for our reunion. Mother, don't. You're pushing me under. Help me. Help me! Shh. That's it. Sleep, my child, sleep. I need to hear your father calling. There. That's better. Good night, my love.
Something is horribly wrong. We must leave here at once.
Listen, Dylan. Daddy is calling to you. Can you hear him? He needs you.
No, no. Please stop. I feel so strange.
Fight, Dylan! Fight! Keep them out! They're evil! They're going to... No. No, Mother, don't! 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 Ah! Pleasant dreams, my pet. Although I rather doubt it. You must go deeper, Dylan. He cannot reach you yet.
Deeper,
Deeper,
deeper.
deeper.
Dylan, my son, I have missed you. Come to me. Father, please, I can't breathe. Help me. Just a little bit closer. Don't be afraid. Give me your hand. Father, it's so cold. What are you doing? Too late. Too late, my weak, weak child. I knew you would come looking for the fortune after you had frittered away everything else.
Hurry, my love. Oh, bid farewell to the foolish fruit of your loins and send him to his sister. Well, the sins of the father shall be visited on them both for all eternity.
Goodbye, Dylan. You are always such a wretched gambler. I forgot to tell you, Uncle Edward had the money all along. You should have thought to ask. No! No, Father! Please! Please, Father! Oh my God! Ah!
Charles! Yvette! My dearest friends, welcome back. The evening has gone so very well.
Oh, thanks to you, Edward. Oh, and you, Raymond. Oh, you are both quite brilliant, weren't they, my love?
Amazing. Simply amazing.
Oh.
If we could ever speak of it, you would go down as the greatest spiritualist in history. I believe a celebration is in order.
Please, I beg of you, let's get off this godforsaken rock and back to Toronto as soon as possible so we can celebrate in style.
You own the lodge anyway, Charles. You could sell it if you like, or perhaps you could just leave it to your children in your will.
Good evening. Well, that was rather bone-chilling on a warm summer's evening. Congratulations to all. My name is Brian March. I'm the Artistic Director of Western Edge Theater, and I'd like to thank everyone out there for joining us on this video Zoom ride. I also like to thank our terrific cast who donated their time and talent to this, put a lot of work into it. and did a great job, I thought. Frank Moore for his technical expertise. Frank, are you there? Pop in if you are. And
I am here.
his voice is there. And of course, the man who created this masterpiece, the writer and director, Bill Miner. Bill, join us.
Thank you, Brian. And thanks for all your work.
You're welcome. So how did you find this video project, the whole idea of Zooming theater? How do you find the process, Bill?
Well, it was a couple of steep learning curves, as you recall, Brian, having been participating in the Sandpiper. But you know, we were just determined to perform and rehearse, and I think we've learned through these next two, and I certainly look forward to watching whatever Western Edge puts on in the future with this until COVID-19 is resolved to the point where people can feel comfortable attending live theater, and we certainly hope that that comes sooner rather than later.
Great, and we're grateful to you and everybody for the opportunity to bring this to you on Zoom, and I'm sure we'll see more of this until we're back on stage. I would like to mention that, again, if you want to support the arts in Western Edge in particular, there is a donation link, I believe, at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And if it's not there, then go to our website at westernedge.org. And please join us in the chat room. There's a little button at the bottom that says chat if you want to add some comments and share what you've seen tonight. So until then.
I just wanted to thank the actors for just an incredible job, just bringing that play to life. It's your guys were all fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Indeed they were.